Hi everybody, Road Warrior 627 back here with you for another thoroughbred racing preview here on my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the Aqueduct card on October 8th this Saturday. So, if you've been around the New York area lately, you know it's been very wet. But we're recording this on Wednesday, the rain has moved out, and we've got 2 days of dry weather before Saturday comes, so hopefully the turf courses will be in at least good condition, although we have gotten a lot. We've got a pretty nice card on tap here at Aqueduct. It is not the name that is listed on the program, as much as NYRA wants you to believe that. It is not anything at anywhere, it is just Aqueduct, because the place they're trying to replace for the moment temporarily cannot be replaced. So we've got 3 stakes on here. Those are races 5, 6, and 8. We'll dive into those. We'll dive into everything on this card, but I can't do it alone as usual. So I've got 2 guests with me today, and maybe a third will be coming. We're not sure, but we had to get the party started. So first, I'm going to introduce Jack Sargent, who's pretty much become a regular on the channel now. Of course, Jack hosts Racing Rundown with Eric DeCoster. All the links will be down below. Jack, how are you doing tonight?
Certainly looking forward to getting back to the place that shall not be named, because I think our plan is still for you and I to go there this weekend, and I haven't been to Aqueduct since April, so it's going to be nice to be back, even though we would much prefer to be at the other place.
Yeah, I agree with you on all counts. And yes, the last time we were there was on Wood Memorial Day, and now we'll be there for this day featuring the Joe Hirsch. Yeah, I haven't been to Aqueduct since then either. And then we've got a, I'm not going to say a rousing return because I think you were on, were you on a recent episode, Dennis?
Well, I think I was, but it's always good to be here. And look, I heard this said from a few other people. It's not the track that shall not be named, and it's not about. It's Royal Aqueduct, okay? It's Royal Aqueduct. It's like Royal Ascot, you know?
That's still a better name than what NYRA is giving this meet. So
Absolutely.
I won't object to that in any way, Dennis. So I'm glad you brought that up. So we're going to take a look at these 11 races at Royal Aqueduct. And the first post I just noticed is not 1 o'clock, so I was wrong about that in my mind. It's 12:35. And one more thing about this, I don't have the morning line odds yet, and normally I handicap with the morning line odds. I know people tell you not to do it. I like to do it with the morning line odds. Those won't be out till tomorrow, maybe the day this video comes out. I don't know when it's gonna, but they will be out by the time that this video is released, so you can take a look at them yourselves. It'll make it a little bit harder for us, and it'll at least leave my picks in a bit of ambiguity, but we'll just have to figure it out in time. The first race, I don't care what the odds are. I'm boxing the 1 and the 7. Case closed. This is how I make my money. Christophe Clement and Chad Brown, first time starters, and I'm going to box the 2 of them here for sure. Both have extensive work tabs. Nothing flashy on Chad's horse. I don't care about that at all. Christoph's has had a few nice ones, but nothing too crazy, including work over the turf, 3 back as well, up at Saratoga, so I'm happy about that. Besides those 2, if I'd be scared of anybody, it's Tim Hill's first time starter, Lady Empire. Doesn't hit that often, but he did hit with one earlier this year, and this horse's works aren't bad either. Nick Juarez comes in to ride there. You're going to see a lot of jockeys that don't usually ride here riding because so many are down at Keeneland. But the thing that makes me feel even better about the Chad horse is when he calls in Manny Franco. That's a very good sign. Should give this horse a nice stalking trip. Maybe Dylan goes to the lead on Clement's horse. I would hope he's at least close. This is indeed a 6 furlong race, so they better be active early on. We'll know very early if we're good or bad in this race. So finally, one more time, the main play is 1-7, and this right away is my biggest play of the day.
And since I make my life difficult, I'm going to force myself to choose between one of those 2, and I'm going to go with the 1, not to just rehash everything Andrew said. And basically, for all those reasons, I agree with him on boxing the 1 and the 7, but I always like to limit myself to one horse. So I'm going with the 1 of those 2 in this race. But I will probably also join Andrew. Maybe not as big as the amount of money that he puts down, but I'll probably box the 1 and the 7 at Aqueduct this Saturday too.
They're so well bred for the turf, both of them. So it should be hopefully be a good result. And Dennis, who do you like in this first race?
Not so fast, my friends. For me, I'm actually going to do something crazy here. Why wouldn't I? I actually like Kerry Bryant's horse, the 2, every time on the cutback. Ran at Colonial Downs, and showed speed early going a mile and 16th. And I know what a lot of you are thinking out there. Oh, that was a mile and 16th. They're going 6. There's no way she could show speed here. Well, since the race, this is why, and I've been paying attention to Kerry Bryant. She's a really good trainer, even outside of steeplechase racing. Her horses worked. This horse here has worked 1 minute and 2, 58 and 4, and 1 minute flat. All 3 bullets since the race. This proves to me going 5 furlongs, the horse can show speed. And I think because of that, I think she's going to go to the lead and try to make life difficult on the inside for Yarl's 1 horse. And I think she actually might be able to hold it because I think that was a nice little prep race for here. So I'm going to the 2. And then I'm scared to death of Chad Brown, but we won't mention that here.
Yeah, you know what, Dennis? I'm glad you brought this horse up because the more I look at it, I do agree with you that it could be a bit of a concern. The cutback, all that thing about showing speed at a mile and a 16th, then, oh, they won't show speed at a sprint. That's bogus. They could absolutely do that. And you've got a smart rider in Trevor McCarthy on her, so I'm not really concerned about that. We'll say one thing: the horse is entered at Laurel tomorrow, at least when we're recording this. I don't know if Laurel's been getting the rain that we've been getting. I assume the horse is entered in a turf race, but who knows? If this horse shows up, she could be a thorn in the side of our horses, but I have to stick with who pays my bills.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, my the first time I've been up on the year since 2014, so got to keep doing what's good. The second race is a nice high-priced claiming race, and if you know me, you know I love sarcasm because I really don't like this race much. If I'm going to take anybody in here, it's going to be number 5, Dots Dollar. Just seems to have speed and be competitive. Draws outside of the other speed in the 4 with Carmouche. So maybe could sit a nice trip right off the lead. This race is also a sprint, 6 furlongs, same distance, but this time on the dirt. So we'll see what happens. There's also another horse who could show speed with Jose Gomez, number 2, Never Early. So this horse will be in the clear of both of them. It has not been bad lately at Aqueduct to be closing on the outside. If anything, it's been a slight advantage. Who knows how the track's going to play this week, but it is something worth paying attention to. So for now, and we don't know about price, but for now I'd go with the 5 Dots Dollar.
I don't have anything in this race. I had to sacrifice some races to get through other races, so this is one of the ones that I passed on.
Good choice.
Good choice. I'll have something by Saturday. This is a very difficult betting race, and it's going to really determine on odds how well you should play this or not. I'm torn between 3 horses right now. Kind of don't know who the top pick's going to be, but 3, 5, and 6 in no order. I could see any of those 3 really running a good race. The 6 off the claim, the 3 dropping in class from Monmouth, and the 5 would be the speed horse. And like you said, Andrew, outside has been playing well, but I think that's been weather. A lot of the weather's helped outside, so I'm kind of interested to see either today or tomorrow how, well, at time of recording, today or tomorrow. Oh, wait a minute, I'm screwing this up. Can we get an edit?
You know what? I'm not going to edit that because you know what? I'm going to set the record straight. We are recording this on Wednesday night, the 5th.
Yeah,
So it will.
and I
This
was talking
video
this.
will either
Yeah.
be out the 6th Thursday or the 7th Friday. I don't know which day yet.
Okay, well then I guess my prediction still rings true. Watch for today and tomorrow how the track plays.
Yeah, and one thing that I should be concerned about with my horse being in the 5 post and possibly being outside of 2 other speeds is that occasionally at NYRA tracks, or I shouldn't say occasionally, but maybe half the time, when the track is drying out from rain, and we just had a bunch of rain, the rail gets good. So that's something to keep in mind as well that could go against. It doesn't always happen, but I'd say about half the time it does, and that rings true for especially Aqueduct and Belmont, less so Saratoga for some reason, but it's just something I've noticed over the 10 years of watching New York racing every day. The third race is another claimer, but this is a cheaper race, and I got nothing.
I would have had nothing, but I was just briefly looking at this race, and I saw Durkin's Call, who has been a veteran of New York for ages now. He actually predates Racing Runout, which it's still fun to see horses that are in that club. There's not too many of them these days, but he is first off the claim for Charlie Baker. I'm running that angle here. That's really all I have. Just because I wanted to try something in here. That's what I'm going to try. Durkin's Call, first off the claim for Baker. Probably ridiculous shot to take, but why the hell not?
Um, well, I really don't have much yet either, and I really don't like nothing on first glance through. Uh, I will say Andrew and Jack could get their pocketbooks together and claim one of these because they're rich, unlike some people.
Excuse me?
uh, huh?
I'm gonna
No.
I'm going to be an engineer and you think I'm gonna be rich? Huh?
That sounds rich.
Yeah, I wish.
Okay, well, I guess me and Jack will be the poor ones over here. Andrew will claim it.
Well, I wish you guys had access to my accounts. You would not be impressed. But Durkin's Call makes some sense, yes, Jack. And Charlie Baker first off the claim. Out of a kind of medium sample size, 19, he's 32% with a 374 ROI. So that's certainly not a bad thing. Moving on to the fourth race, we're finally back on the good green stuff. We're going a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. Nice price maiden race. And there's a couple in here that I'm interested in. Not exactly the kind of race I was expecting, but we'll deal with it. The first time starter is for Brad Cox. He hits 19% with firsters, but most of them are not that well priced. And this horse does not really have a turf pedigree. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to get here. I'm not going to go too crazy. I do like Fergal Lynch. He gave that horse in the Jaipur a very nice ride on the lead to get third, True Valor, and made me some money with that. So I won't exactly be hating on him. I'll give him another chance with some money. And then the other horse I'll use is Smoky Eyes for Clement, who's run twice and just ran second and not put up impressive figures. In fact, nobody in this field has put up any impressive figures, so it will not take a big effort by map to win this race in any way. And this horse has a work tab going back pretty far and pretty consistently. I know the pedigree doesn't say turf, but look, this field kinda sucks.
Yeah, the pedigree doesn't say turf, but this field stinks. So I'm going to go with map just because I don't want to go reach for someone that has proven that they can't win up to this point. And yeah, you said it. The pedigree isn't great for the turf, but it's not going to take a whole lot to beat this group. So map will be my selection.
I'm kind of concerned with Map. I think he is probably the most, or she is probably the most likely winner of this race. But my concerns are, why didn't this horse run at Saratoga? It could be anything. Uh, she's not good. She wasn't ready. I don't know. I don't really want to find out. I'd probably go to a little bit of a price, and we don't have morning line outs out currently. So, it's hard to tell, but and it's hard to even take a guess because, like you all said, all these horses have ran bad, and Map's probably going to be bad because it's Cox, and it's I don't know. It's going to be hard to tell, but I think this race could actually prove a price if Map's not good. If she's 4 to 5, well then skip.
Oh, absolutely, me too. Because my other horse, the seconditis horse, at least so far, Smoky Eyes, is going to get bet too. So that's not going to work out too good. This might be a race to kind of maybe stay away from. I mean, you do have a second time starter for Linda Rice and a surface switch and a distance change, so all those factors come into play. Jose Lizcano maintains the mount on number 12 Mim. That's a bad post on paper, but there is a long time before the first turn, so we'll see how that shakes out. Of course, Linda often gives her horses a race, even though she probably shouldn't be training right now, as a bunch of other people, even though hers wasn't about drugs. And yeah, anybody else? I mean, sure, there's other second time starters in here you could look at, like the number 5, Sarah's dialed in. I tend to stay away in races like this. I take first time starters or second time starters. Anybody that's run 2 or more times, I pretty much throw out. Unless you run second, then I use you in the exacto, like Clement's horse.
Yeah.
By the way, Clement's very cold right now. We should point that out. Race number
Well,
5. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, well, that's your guy, so I mean, you should know it better than I guess me and Jack might currently.
I'm not sure I know anything. Race number 5. Now, in a normal situation, I would be ripping the American Graded Stakes Committee for downgrading the Vosburgh, and I'm still pissed they did 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, part of that is I wanted to see Firenze Fire win another Grade 1. But I'm at the point now where I realize that grades of races are stupid anyway. But if you want to look at it from an objective standpoint, I cannot call this the Grade 1 Vosburgh this year. This is not a Grade 1 race by any means. Last year's race with 4 horses was a Grade 1 race. This year's race with 5 horses most certainly is not. But it is a Grade 2, I would say. And you've got some good horses in here that are coming to play. And the most notable thing about this race is that they changed the distance to 7 furlongs. The other most notable thing about this race is that this race, one of the most historic sprint races in the country, has no speed. Who is going to the lead? That's my question to both of you.
Your guess is as good as mine.
I'm looking at time form, and I don't agree with time form on a lot of things with their pace setup. They have the 2 going to the lead, and I disagree. For me, I think the other Norm Cash is going to the lead, the 3 horse, but it don't matter. It really doesn't.
I think it could matter at the end of the day because somebody could easily wire this field. These horses are not that good, and if someone gets loose out there, they can do this. I think the 2 best horses in the race are the 2 guys that I play, the 1 and the 4. But Drafted has won a pretty important race at this distance. The race named after that horse that I don't like to talk about because he's got too many commercials. Back at Belmont in May, I was there for that. And then he won on June 4th as well at Monmouth. He's got 2 wins, not fast figures, but I've been kind of throwing out figures lately. And he's been running in stakes races. The other ones have been running in either cheaper stakes races or allowance races. So I don't really know. I think I'm going to take the odds approach in this race and maybe play who I think is the best price out of everybody that has a realistic chance. And as far as who has a realistic chance, I think it's all of them. This race is a freaking mess. Maybe Jalen Journey is a little bit light on the figure standpoint. But everybody else, I think you can make a case for them.
Just digging back through the form, and I would say the 2 is probably the one that I would think could go to the lead because if you go back to the Chesapeake at Colonial back in August, he was relatively close to the pace early on. He was sitting third throughout the majority of the race, but was within a length of the lead. So if you had
Mm-hmm.
to force me to pick someone, I'd say he would go to the lead. But I am going to go with Elite Power here just because I liked the win at Saratoga and Allowance Company going 6th last time. I thought it was a good win. I think getting an extra furlong isn't going to do him any problems. But I agree with your point. This race is very wide open, and I'm not necessarily confident in Elite Power because Southern District has run some good races at Aqueduct. And then you mentioned that there's no speed, so maybe the 2 could just steal the race. Dylan has a knack for stealing races on occasion. But I'm going to just take the approach of I'm going to take the horse that I think is best, and I think it's Elite Power.
For me, it's Elite Power as well. To be honest, the worst kept secret at Churchill was Strobe on Derby weekend, uh, who Elite Power got crushed by when he made his debut on Oaks Day, and then was never seen from again, sadly. Um, because, but the thing is Elite Power came out of that race to win by 9, to win by 3 1/4, and then win by 3 1/2. Now I'm gonna say this point again later on, but who was the best rider for this horse? Mr. Ophir at Churchill, James Graham. James Graham should be riding this horse and another horse later on. We'll get to that later. But this horse has just blossomed and taken over for what it is at Churchill. I was really concerned about the cut back to 6 furlongs last time. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. So I think this horse is just really talented and finally getting it to the point of, being that $900,000 purchase price that they paid for the horse. So Elite Power wins, and then I think might go to the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Okay, I don't particularly care about that, but that's fine if he does do that. I will maybe put some thoughts up on Twitter about this race. Gun to my head, Dennis, I think I agree with you. The 3 might go to the lead. I think that Castellano has been realizing lately that one way to revitalize his career is to send horses to the lead, so maybe he'll do that. I'm not sure. Doesn't say it based on the time form ratings, but who knows? I found this race extremely hard, as you all out there could tell. You got another stakes race in the 6th. It's the Matron, of course. This used to be a big race on the dirt for the 2-year-olds way back in the day when 2-year-olds actually used to run all the time, 2 weeks apart from each other. That doesn't happen anymore. So now we've got it on the turf, and I actually think that NYRA has sort of revitalized these races by doing it. I think it's actually a good move what they did. And in this 6th race, we don't have much. I mean, you've got Clement, who, of course, I like because he's one of my guys. But I wasn't truly impressed by any of these horses' first races. And I think you can kind of tell, based on the field, that the connections of these horses agree because there's some horses in here making their second start. There's also a maiden in here as well. So I think people are pretty much saying, well, let's give it a shot. The purse is 150 grand. I guess first place is about 90. So that'll be pretty good if you can get that. I will be using the 1, of course, but I might have to find someone else here too. I want to apologize. I didn't have a lot of time to handicap today because the form came out pretty late and I had a lot of stuff to do. I had something to do at 6 o'clock and I'm kind of just giving my early thoughts here. Of course, we don't have the odds either, as I mentioned. So bear with us, especially me, throughout this video. I'll probably just stick with the one and maybe make an exacta with someone else who I come up with later on.
For me in this race, I'm going to run with a pure pedigree angle, and that is the 10 Sweet Harmony. Byron has been consistent in throwing one thing in his stud career: turf sprinters with some good speed. We saw that last weekend when Speedboat Beachborough, another individual that shall not be named, won the Speakeasy at Santa Anita. He's had two other, Byron at stud has had two other stakes winners this year. Both of those horses were one was half turf sprinting. One was going 6.5 furlongs up at Woodbine on the all-weather there. So, again, when I say half turf sprinting, and then Legs Galore, who won the misdirection at Santa Anita. So Byron has been very good at throwing turf sprinters. That's what he's been up to this point in his stud career. And for Sweet Harmony, 2 wins going into the Bolton Landing at Saratoga, where she ran into Love Reigns. She was on the lead early on in that race. They went pretty fast. It was never going to go well for Sweet Harmony because Love Reigns is a very talented 2-year-old filly. We will see her run on Sunday at Keeneland, most likely in the Indian Summer. And if she airs there, that obviously, backs up the effort that she had there. But I'm going to take Sweet Harmony in here just purely based on that pedigree angle because it seems to be working as of this year with Byron. That's really what I can draw from this race. And other than that, it's very difficult to single down on one horse here. But that's what I'm going to do with Sweet Harmony here.
Call me a fool, because I'm a sucker. Okay. I guess I'm playing this with a wallet kind of idea. I had Determined Jester last time out at Colonial Downs at 35 to 1. So, and the reason why was because $575,000 purchase price to be exact. And the horse didn't run bad on dirt, off the turf race. And then came to Colonial, and I thought, okay, she'll just finally just show what she's made of. And she got beat by 5. I said, all right, they're still sticking her in the stakes race. I'm still taking her. This is the last time, unless something drastic happens. And she won at 35 to 1 by 4 lengths. So, how can I go against that horse, Andrew?
You can't.
That's fair enough. I'll say if that horse wasn't in the race, I think the other best horse is Dance Macabre for Kelsey Danner. Adam comes up here to ride. Can be tactical, could also not be. That could hamper her a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see where that horse is. And just be leery of speed on this short turf course. Kind of, I didn't echo this earlier, but it's been playing towards speed in my opinion. And who knows, if you can find a horse in this race that you like going to the lead, use it as a exacta and box 3 horses around it. So that's just my thoughts on this race.
Yeah, I agree that generally these 6 furlongs at Aqueduct do play to horses near the lead. However, there is a lot of speed in this race on paper. And if there's a mad dash early, it could set it up for someone from behind, but we just don't know. Or they could go 23-3 for the first quarter of a mile, because that happens sometimes. The 7th race is an allowance. It's kind of the bridge between the big money action as far as the purses are concerned. And I really couldn't find anyone in this race. I do like Jack's horse a little bit because I liked him earlier this year. So I will let Jack talk about number 6, Shipsational.
Yeah, I'm a normal mold here because I normally don't like to go with horses off of this significant of a layoff. But Eric quite liked Shipsational on the Tampa road to the Kentucky Derby this year. He was second to Classic Causeway in the Sam Davis and then third in the Tampa Bay Derby. Hasn't been seen since, but Classic Causeway is a pretty talented racehorse. And running stakes, placing efforts behind him isn't necessarily a bad thing. And he was a neck off of second in the Tampa Bay Derby as well. So it's purely based on his form from the Kentucky Derby trail. I don't like the layoff, but I wasn't really too into anyone else in here. And I think he's got a good chance to show that show that the form that he had on the Kentucky Derby Trail is is going to be backed up in this spot.
That's a fair point. That's a really good point, Jack. I think the horse, if it's right, should be really tough in here. I just don't like playing these sorts of horses off the Derby Trail on a layoff, especially after running good races and still not running afterwards. Which, I guess if I was a trainer, that's what I would do as well. But I still think this is a prep race, so I gotta go to Life Changer on the 5. Yeah, nobody's in here is really good. I don't think. So, I think that's the best of the bad horses that we have here, or at least below average. I don't think this should be a allowance race. I think a lot of these horses could be in for claiming 50.
Okay, and with that being said, we will move on to the 8th race, which was the most important turf race of the fall, and that is the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. And only 7 horses, just like last year, but of course last year it was big balloons, with Chad Brown running 1-2, with 2 horses that seemed impossible. So anything can happen, even with an average to low size field, and we've got 7 again here, and we've only got 1 horse with speed, and that's Bye Bye Melvin. I want to talk about Bye Bye Melvin for just about 10 seconds. I had him in this Manhattan right here. I thought he might run a big race, and he went off at 22-1, and he was up kind of in mid-pack, and then he just totally crapped his pants and didn't run at all. So that is when I had him, of course, when he ran the worst race of his life. I get in very tough competition. And since then, off a giant layoff, he ran a very nice on-the-lead effort with a pretty fast pace, given it's Saratoga on the inner turf course. That's an extremely fast pace on the Saratoga inner turf course, and just got beat by a neck. Then he comes back and wins, wires the field on the Saratoga turf course, getting a very easy pace towards the end of the meet. The one thing I will say about Bye Bye Melvin is that there is no speed in here besides him. He is the horse that could absolutely wire this field. It doesn't really matter, but he does get the inside post, and there is quite a possibility he's on my tickets. Now, 6 out of 7 horses in here are horses I would normally play, because the horses, the trainers I play are Graham Motion, Bill Mott, Chad Brown, and Christophe Clement. And they make up 6 of the 7 horses in here. And Tom Albatrani, who has the 4, has been known to upset long turf races. So this race is an absolute mess. And another thing that should be known is that these horses, while there are 2 standouts, they are both closers, and the other ones are quirky and occasionally run big races. So it's extremely hard to figure out. So the way I'm going to approach it, and I talked to Jack and Dennis about this before we started, is I'm going to go through the field myself. They don't feel the need to, but I'm just going to give a few more points about each of them. Warlike Goddess, if you follow me on tour, you know what I think about Warlike Goddess. She should have won the Eclipse Award last year, and not just because I'm not blaming Leparoux for that, I'm blaming the voters, because they don't realize that the only thing that matters, they don't realize that the only thing that doesn't matter, or Grade 1 races don't matter. Oh, there, I said it. Grade 1 races are just overhyped. It's a nice status symbol to say. The way you evaluate a race is if it's actually a good race and you see how horses run out of it. And the other thing you don't do is give Eclipse Awards to horses who come over here and run once in the Breeders' Cup and win. That is just absolute garbage. I know that you two feel the same way, especially Jack. So, not to mention, she did get a bad ride in there moving too early. And then she's gotten 2 bad rides this year by Joel Rosario, who of course moved too late, because that's what he does in every turf race. Rosario in the Bewitch she overcame that. In the Flower Bowl, she could not overcome it because she was running against a very good horse in Virginia Joy, who of course wired the field in that slow pace. This horse is a monster. I'm glad she's in here against the boys. She absolutely deserves it, and I think she is extremely, extremely dangerous. Again, not making a pick, but there's a very good chance if you had a gun to my head, I would pick her. 3 is Adamo. He ran 2 very big races, the Manhattan closing in behind Tribovan, who just ran his eyeballs out on the lead. The UN, I was there. He ran a very nice race. He kind of drifted back, and he still came at the end to win over a bunch of good horses, including Gufo, who was back there, who got another bad ride from Rosario in that race. Good news is Rosario ain't here, so he can't ride either one of them. Astronaut Tom Albatrani, I brought up the fact that he's occasionally wired long turf races, but he is the one that I would automatically throw out just because of who's in here. Rock Emperor. This was his race last year. This was the race he just magically woke up in and ran. He beat incredibly good horses. Now, he did it at Belmont around the wide turns of the Widener turf course. Now he has to go around 3 turns of the inner turf course at Aqueduct. He won the Bowling Green over the same pretty much inner turf course at Saratoga earlier. This could be his race. And look who gets aboard him, Castellano. First time since the Breeders' Cup, and only second time since that Joe Hirsch. The 6 is Soldier Rising, a horse who I liked for a long time, and I kind of got off of him in the Sword Dancer because there were just too many horses there. And he ran a very good race behind his stablemate Gufo. I just don't think he's as good as Gufo. And Gufo himself is number 7. I thought the 2-week turnaround last time was a little bit iffy. And actually, I don't think Rosario was the one who cost him the race. I think that he just didn't get there. And Red Knight's not a bad horse either, so I don't really blame him for that. The Sword Dancer was the best race run by an American turf horse this year, in my opinion. He was kept a little bit closer by Rosario, like he was in the Belmont Derby back in 2020 during Corona, and that, of course, wound up being the right decision, as of course it is, because you can't leave this horse dead last. And he doesn't have to be, because he actually does have a tiny, tiny bit of speed. He doesn't have complete no speed. So my strategy in here is to look at the board, and I'm going to make my bets based on that. It would be very nice to get a scratch in here of somebody. Who do I think are the 2 most talented? The 2 and the 7. Do I think they're up against it from a pace standpoint? Possibly. But I also think that pretty much everybody is.
I'm saying finally, really loudly. I'm not going to say it the way that I said it to myself, but I am saying finally when it comes to Warlike Goddess for 3 things. Number 1, she's getting back to a mile and a half. Number 2, she's getting against the boys because, as I agree with Andrew, I think that she has absolutely all the talent to be able to do it. And now that this is the first opportunity, and hopefully the first of 2 this year, that we'll get to see her against the boys. And then number 3, and the biggest finally, is Joel Rosario is not in the saddle. Oh, thank God he's not in the saddle for this race here. And I'll let Dennis get more into it in terms of who Dennis thinks should be riding her. Me, you can put anybody in the saddle as long as it's not Joel Rosario with Warlike Goddess, and I'd be happy. I don't really think that, yes, the pace scenario is very hazy, but also doesn't matter for Warlike Goddess because if you go back and look at every single one of her career races, she just closes into slow paces. It doesn't matter how slow they go. So if they go 50 or 51, I'm not concerned. As long as Jose Lezcano isn't going to get in Warlike Goddess's way and just let her do her thing, which when you let this horse do what she wants to do, she wins races. And when she's allowed to run races how she wants to and isn't being strangled by an idiot on her back, she's the best turf horse of either gender in this country. I'll go out on a limb and say that. I think it's true. And when a moron isn't riding her, she's able to show that. And I'm hopeful that she'll be able to show this against the boys, and it will motivate Billy Mott to put her in the turf and not shorten her up for the filly and mare turf come Breeders' Cup time.
For me, it's war. It's always been war. War's not a good thing, but war's pretty darn good in the racetrack business, I guess, for this horse. Um, and I think I want to echo what Jack said on Julian and Joel. I'll include them both. They should not have been riding this horse. Listen, last jockey who's rode this horse is Mr. Ofer at Churchill, James Graham, 1 for 1. Guess who got off this horse because he had to go do something else? I think that day back in October, James Graham rode her. Julian was off, and then Julian comes back and runs fifth. You should have put Graham on immediately after. Yet you stick with Julian. And uh, I said back in October when Graham was riding her in the paddock, I said this is probably one of the best top 5, top 10 horses I've ever seen in person in my life. Before the race was even ran. Before she just broke her mane. That's all she did. And so I've really been on this horse's hype train for a long time. And Joel, see, the problem with Julian is he would panic. Joel does not panic, at least. But Joel will do. If you read the comment lines in the last 3 races that Joel's been on her for, fault, restraint, inside, steadied 5/16, bump 3/16, split. Oh well, that's a lot. Then the last then Saratoga, uh, track 2 path, tip 3 wide, near 5/16, 5/6 wide upper. As rider pleased. Okay, so anybody could have rolled her. And then last time, firm hold inside near rear, rouse 4 wide upper late, surge to too late. That's what the comment line says according to time form. All 3 of those says, well, Joel didn't have to ride her. You could have took anybody and rode her. I mean, grab you a person from Belterra. They'll get the job done. Grab Sonny. He'll get the job done. You know, grab Harry Utes. The old man's 64 years old. I'm sure he's got nothing better to do, either be in retirement home or here. Uh, so, I guess what I'm saying is I like her a lot. I think she's the winner. I think she's the best horse. And on to the Breeders' Cup with her, where I hope she wins as a fan and everything else. Now, I will say, I think Soldier Rising is the second best horse in this race right now, which goes against Gufo. Soldier Rising has been running better in many of races of late, and kind of staying consistently the same too. So he's been slightly improving, but running the same race every single time. So I think that those are the 2 horses that run first and second, and Gufo or Bye Bye Melvin will get third. But it'll be fun, and it will really be telling with Warlike Goddess on what she's going to do for the Breeders' Cup in this race. So, like I said, again, as a race fan, for me, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait for this race. I can't wait to see how it plays out. I definitely think uh, it's going to be worth going to Aqueduct just to watch this race. And of course, get some pictures too, and not put my name on the in the middle of it like every horse racing photographer out there. I'll just post them for free because I'm a nice guy. Race number 9. We're out of the stakes action now, and we're back to a claimer on the dirt, which, as you people know, is my least favorite type of race. I will say one thing. I had this number 4 horse win for gold first time out at 12-1, way back at the end of March. Made $68 in that race. He hasn't won since. And yeah, that's about it. Not saying I'm going to take him here. I hate this race.
Just putting something together really quickly toward the end. I'm going to go with the 7, Hang Tight. If you're going through the recent form lines, has not missed the board since his career debut. There's not really a whole lot to love about him other than that, but he has been running a decent string, and I do have to check. He is first time off the claim for Linda Rice, and Linda is pretty good at finding horses to claim. So I'm gonna take the opportunity to try Hang Tight the 7 here. Don't feel great about it, but you're not going to feel great about anybody in this race.
How can you not feel great about anybody? Look at the names: Cash in a Flash, From Another Mother, And then you've heard of the steeplechase horse monster snap decision. Well, he got slow decision. Those are three great names right there. And I don't like any horse in this race either, really. Currently, I might change my mind come race day. But it's going to be a fun race for the names, at least, from my opinion.
Good race for the people who come to the racetrack and don't know what they're doing, but they like to pick the names, although that doesn't happen much at Aqueduct in general. The 10th
Yeah.
race is an allowance on the outer turf course at a mile and a 16th. They move it over. And I don't really like anybody in this race either. I'm just going to play this my normal 3-horse box with the 2 Clements and Chad. I really don't like any of those horses, but I don't really see any other way to go. And against their competition in here, they really don't look bad. And I guess they're probably not great prices either once the morning line comes out. So maybe I'll just stick with that, and if they're crap prices, I'll just play it for fun and maybe get something going into the 11th, because I do have an opinion in the 11th. So that's, let me just quickly say those are numbers 1, 4, and I think 10. Yeah, 1, 4, 10.
I'm going to go with La Victoria in this race. Coming out of a mile and an eighth. Maiden race to Saratoga, where she broke her maiden on the 4th of September. She actually got put up in that race, so she wasn't the winner there, but she lost by less than a length there. And as I said, going a mile and an eighth, this is going a little bit shorter. The one thing that does make me a little bit about this horse is she is one of the Mandy Pope purchased for almost $1 billion horses. Not obviously being facetious there. She was only purchased for 800,000, but pedigree line, she absolutely the cake for this race. But those really super nice pedigrees don't necessarily always get the job done in races, as has been demonstrated on numerous occasions. That being said, I do think she does find a pretty decent middle between a mile and an eighth in this spot. And in a race where I don't really love anybody else, let's try it with her in here.
Now, I kind of want your opinion, Jack, and Andrew's opinion on this. Now, it's not my top pick, but I got a crazy one. And you know how my crazy ones are. They normally run kind of decent. What about Fistful of Dice? Six.
I haven't the horse. I'm just out of curiosity. What's your angle?
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
Bentley Combs, I like Bentley Combs a lot as a trainer. And he doesn't really have too many New York breds, so. And it's kind of like, well, horse's last race was kind of speedy, but didn't really finish up all that well. But the Mal, and Mal one, I can't talk. Mal and Mal 1/16th races on the turf. Those 3 races, actually those last 4 races. Actually, wait a minute, I'm digging deeper in here. Every race she's ran for a mile and 16th, she's been beat by like 4 lengths.
Yeah,
So
now that I'm digging into the charts, Dennis, I think that you got a decent chance, because I do see that the numbers don't look great, but the margin of defeat in the races are not all that. Losing by a length and a half, as you were saying, and cutting back the mile and 3/8 was clearly too far
yeah,
last time. So I think now that I've gotten a chance to look at it, I think you've certainly got a chance to get something there.
yeah, and she'll be all of 20 to 1 minimum. And I think that she's worth a shot at those odds. She's not my top pick, but I will be betting this horse because this horse will be every bit of the odds. But thank you for that. Andrew, you say the same thing, or am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy, because I think this is the sort of race where the favorites are likely the horses that I'm going to be betting, and they're just not that good. And if they're still better than everybody else, they're not better by much. And I'm not one for figures lately, but that last figure going much longer, which might not be what this horse wants to do, is very high in comparison to the rest of this field, and the other ones are good enough, if not that far off. Yes, this horse does run good races and isn't missing by that far when she loses. So yeah, I definitely see the angle in here for sure. The guy owns the horse too. One thing that I must mention, he's 3 for 49
Yeah,
this year. That's
that's
bad.
that, yeah, it is. I've seen him do stuff at Churchill. He's a decent trainer. For what it is. I know the record speaks for itself, but my top pick in here is going to be the one horse, New Guinea. I think that's how is that it, the name,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Um, yeah, that horse is it's probably the best Clement in this race, and I mean the horse should run first or second, all things considered, unless something she can't get through, she gets trapped, and then also the other Clement is it's probably the second best horse on paper. She might get too far back for my liking, but then again, Joel Rosario got her way too far back. You know, if Joel's out there listening, we don't hate you that much.
Oh,
Or at
I
least I
do.
don't.
I do. No, I hate you, Joel.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
can't. I can't hate Joel too much because Joel's in my Joel's in my profile picture. I mean, we say it all the time on Racing Rundown. We rip him more than we rip anyone else. We don't hate Joel, but just do your job right.
So, and to harp back onto uh, La Victoria, that horse is also included, at least somewhere. Let's farms. Listen, if she's out there listening, which she's not, but um, please stay in your own section. I love what you do for horse racing. Your brood mares are incredible. It's just you're blowing money on making your 800,000 back with this horse. Sorry, but I think that I think that she needs to start just sticking to brood mares and leave the buying of racehorses to professionals. So for me, 1, 4, 6, 8.
Okay, there we go. We actually went pretty deep into that race, which I wasn't really expecting to do, but that's a good thing. And now we've got the 11th. We are closing things out with a maiden on the turf, a low priced regular maiden. And you've got some horses in here that just aren't that good. So let me ask you guys, who do you think I took in here?
One, two firster. That'd be my guess. My guess.
Yeah, but which one?
Jim Jerkins one.
No, I took the Jorge Abreu one because I like
Okay, because I'm
Jorge.
taking the Jimmy
There we go.
Jerkins one because I like. So we're buying the first.
Yep, and the stats are pretty good. For Abreu, always like that. Franco jumps on, like that too. Will be a bit of an outside post, but once again, you've got time to get over a little bit, so I'm not too concerned. So yeah, it'll be the 11. I'll definitely box the 311 a little bit. Could throw the 2 in there just because it's Billy Mott, but that's about it.
Yeah. Oh. I'm kind of it's not one that I like to play a lot. For me, I'll go Bully, 5, because I just like the last turf, and I don't know. It's a really bad race, and I think that this horse might show speed with Kendrick on. So that's my top pick, and then just kind of wide open for underneath. I don't hate either first time starters, like you all said, and I don't know why, but something about Lemon Red is calling my name. Might be because it's Haracho de Paz. Um, Could be second time off the layoff. I don't know. It's a bad field. So if you're alive in a pick 4 at this point, try to find somebody and give them the ticket for however much half of it's paying. So, it's a bad field. It'll be fun though to figure out who's going to win that race.
I completely agree. And that's about it, guys. We have wrapped up this 11 race card here at Aqueduct on October 8th, featuring, of course.
Do you want to talk about the Coolmore Turf Mile at Keeneland? Because I know you mentioned you got to talk about one of your guys in that race. So I don't want to cut you off. I just want to ask you if you want to get into that race before we end up.
Casa effing Creed. That's all I gotta say. What about
good
you
enough?
guys?
Good enough for me. Good enough for me. That's where I'm gonna end up in that.
All right, and with that being said, everybody, that's it for this video. Thank you to Dennis and Jack for joining me. Their links are down below in the description. Hope you guys figure out what should be a pretty tough but fun card. There's not really a lot of big favorites on this card, so you're going to have to really put the work in and try to figure it out. Or possibly just get lucky with some bonehead rides from other jockeys or stupid pace scenarios, as that always happens. As far as the next video is concerned, I don't think I'm going to be doing another preview until Cigar Mile Day. I think I'm just going to take a break for a while, except for maybe one thing, which could be a one-turn route with Dennis Trusty, if he wants to come on. If he wants to come back fairly soon, I'll ask him about that. And that's about it, everybody. So enjoy Aqueduct, not the other name of the place. Pay your bills first, and may the odds be ever in your favor.